Welcome to Scare You to Sleep. I'm your host, Shelby Novak, and I'm here to read you a couple of bedtime stories. Before we begin, I just wanted to remind you to go listen to the Bloody Disgusting podcast, where I am now a permanent co-host. We released a bonus episode today, actually, where I interviewed Chris Jericho. So if you're a fan of wrestling or a fan of his new horror movie career, please go check that out. Video of the whole interview is also available on Spotify if you want to see his face or mine or both. But the audio is available everywhere you can get your podcasts. For the regular episode this week, we did a deep dive on the horror movie or horror comedy Club Dread. So check that out as well. This week, I have 2 tales for you, and I've placed them in the same episode because though each was written by very different authors, it almost felt like they were writing about a similar entity. It actually had me jumping at a perceived tap on my window last night. I ripped off my sleep mask and sat straight up and looked out my window, and there were no demons. Thank God. So thank you to both of these authors for that. First up, we have a story from Ofir Lederline. And thank you, Ofir, for the little audio clip of the correct pronunciation of your name. I appreciate that, and I hope I did it properly. Ofir has for us: I saw a man through my window in Berlin. My name is Clara, and everything I'm about to tell you is real. I'm not delusional, and I'm not crazy, but you can bet your ass I'm scared. Scared shitless. It happened so long ago that I buried it deep in my mind as a bad memory and tried to move on with my life. But here we are. It all started in the early 2000s. I was on the path to fulfilling my dream of becoming a fashion designer. During my final year of high school, I entered an online fashion contest sponsored by a major fashion line, one I won't name. Not because I'm modest, but because I don't want you looking at my design. Honestly, it was corny as hell, and I fucking hate it now. But, like it or not, I won first place. The prize? A full tuition scholarship for 3 years of fashion studies in Berlin. Within a week, my whole life flipped. I dropped out of school before graduation, bawled my eyes out on the way to the airport, mostly because I was going to miss my mom, and got on a plane to Berlin. It was my first time leaving the country. I was shitting myself with nerves, but also insanely excited. When I landed, my teacher, mentor, and eventual middle-aged nemesis/bestie, Katharina, was waiting for me at the airport. She was in charge of helping first-year foreign students adjust, which basically meant babysitting us clueless idiots. The moment I met Katharina, I could tell she hated my guts. I told myself she probably hated all foreigners, but no, she especially hated me. I'll never forget the look on her face when she saw me. Pure, unfiltered disappointment. So obviously, I hugged her. And not just any hug. I gave her the kind of bear hug I save for my mom when she makes her New York-style cheesecake. Katharina's reaction? A loud, exaggerated, ugh, followed by the angriest eye roll I've ever seen. Come on, miss, she snapped, her forehead vein bulging. I was hoping to get more done today after babysitting you. Don't think winning some contest means you deserve to be here. And that was my warm, fuzzy welcome to Germany. Very Führer-esque, if you ask me. She shoved me into a cab, and we headed to Torstrasse Street in the Mitte district of Berlin. My scholarship had placed me near the Berlin University of the Arts, where my classes were. The area was decent, and I tried to focus on the fact that I was about to live my dream. Anyway, let's skip ahead. I'm not here to tell you about my little adventures studying abroad. We're getting to the real shit. In the middle of my second year, everything went downhill, thanks to a pipe explosion near my dorm. I had to pack up my life and relocate, and when I say pipe explosion, I mean my sketches, fabric swatches, and measurements were literally floating down the hall like some sad Titanic reenactment. Katharina, queen of unwilling rescue missions, showed up to help me move what wasn't completely destroyed. She took me to a studio apartment owned by the university. It was technically used as storage for the fashion department and was located in the shittier part of the Midi district. But honestly, it was an upgrade. My dorm had been a depressing little shoebox with one bed, a mirror, and a window that might as well have been painted shut. My second day in my new place of old fabric designs and broken fashion dolls was, well, eventful. I spent the day organizing the place, trying to make it feel somewhat livable, before starting the inevitable marathon of non-stop studying. For context, I spent the first day crying into a bottle of wine over the tragic loss of my dear designs from the South Fork Dam pipe disaster. The apartment was a studio, just one big square of space. It was on the top floor of a small neighborhood shopping center, the kind of place that makes you wonder how these tiny, hyper-specific shops even stay in business. From what I could tell, the building didn't have any other apartments, or at least none with living people inside. Let me give you a quick tour of my new digs. Top left corner. I just shoved all the bullshit that the fashion school was storing in the apartment there. I called it the big bullshit corner. I know, totally original. Bottom left corner, the entrance door. Center, a cute couch I found on the street, don't judge, and an old CRT TV that Katharina oh so graciously donated to me. The TV only picked up German-speaking channels. When you're here, the least you can do is learn the language, Katharina had said. So even if you can't get a job in fashion, at least you'll leave with something from your time here. God, what a lovely woman. Top right corner, my kitchen, complete with a small door leading to a bathroom. Honestly, I was just relieved the bathroom worked and wasn't, plopped in the middle of the studio on a raised platform. Apparently, European decor can get weird. Bottom right corner, my bed, which was absolutely glorious and almost made up for the hell of moving out of the dorm. There was also a desk in front of the bed where I spent 99% of my time studying and designing. Right side, a row of 3 massive windows, covered by an old floral curtain that reminded me of my granddad's ginger cookies. After I finished organizing, I briefly thought about going out for food. Then I remembered it was the end of the month, and I was broke until the 1st. So, cup of ramen it was. I dozed off after eating, then woke up around noon the next day and got to work. After a few hours of burying myself in the fashion matrix, I decided to make a cup of tea to keep the vibe going. I turned on the kettle and opened the curtains for some light and hopefully a decent view. Spoiler, not much of a view. But then I noticed something weird. Across from me, a little higher up, was another studio apartment. It was bizarre as hell. The furniture near the windows was all covered in black and white lines and spirals like some hypnotic nightmare. There was even a huge spiral table. I couldn't help but think, being drunk in that place must be absolute hell. I didn't pay attention to it at first, but later in the evening, things got even weirder. That's when I first saw him. A tall, really tall, blonde, middle-aged man. He was sitting in his living room, directly in front of the TV, and he was laughing his ass off. Then, just as suddenly, He stopped laughing and stared intensely at the TV. His whole demeanor shifted. After a moment, he shot up from the couch looking pissed and then threw himself back down with a loud bang and started sobbing. This bizarre cycle, laughing, glaring, standing, slamming back down, crying, went on for about an hour. I know, I probably should have stopped snooping, but I couldn't look away. I was teetering on the edge of burnout, completely thrown off by the whole forced dorm move, and I hadn't exactly been socializing. Watching Puppet Man became a weird little game for me. Oh yeah, that's what I started calling him, the Puppet Man. The name just fit. The way his mood shifted so dramatically over what I assumed was some random TV show, paired with his long-ass arms and legs, made him look like a marionette with tangled strings. And that's how I started my strange little obsession with Puppet Man. At first, it wasn't so much of an obsession. I liked to take a glance up at his place across the street just to see whatever the hell Puppet Man was up to. I even wrote it down in a little notepad next to my sticky notes. Now, let me take you a bit deeper into Puppet Man's schedule. I wasn't an early bird, but even when I was up early in the morning and not in class, his apartment was always empty. At 8 p.m., though, he'd suddenly appear and open his TV and sit and stare and start his mood roulette routine. I tried to check the TV guide a few times to figure out what he was watching, but with my German still shaky, all I could tell was that it was emotional as hell. From 8 p.m. to 9:15 p.m. on the dot, he'd sit there, glued to the screen. After that, he'd shut it off and just stand. Just stand for 20 to 30 minutes. Then, he'd walk across the apartment to his library, a whole library, pick a book or something, and stand there writing in it for at least 40 to 50 minutes. After that, he'd place the book down and head to the back of his apartment, which unfortunately I couldn't see. Around 11 p.m., the lights would go off, and that was it for the night. I don't know if that was his routine every day, but it sure seemed like it on the days I decided to play my little stalking game. I honestly thought, well, Germans, eh? Nah, joking. I just figured he was a lonely, middle-aged man in a shitty designed apartment with a strictly regimented routine and a love for TV telenovelas. That point of view had to change, though, when I learned a little more. Around 2 months in, I had a friend named Lucas. Well, more of a friend with benefits. Lucas was a cute guy I met at a party. He was a dancer, so you can bet he was pretty fit, if you get what I mean. He helped me get a couch up, and we, well, tested it. Wink, wink. Anyway, Lucas had a gig near my place that ended early, so I texted him to come over. He sat on my bed while I worked on some measurements for a new design, and of course, it was 8 p.m., time for the Puppet Man show. As Lucas was my dear part-time lover, I had to fill him in on my weird neighbor, just to make sure he knew not all middle-aged Germans were like that. Lucas, being local, confirmed that, it was weird as hell. So of course, since Lucas was already familiar with my Puppet Man obsession, we decided to play the guessing game about what the hell the guy was going to do next. About 30 minutes in, Lucas said, "Wait, I think I can see the TV from here." He reached into his bag and pulled out a little pair of toy binoculars. I couldn't help myself. "So you're a spy now? Where'd you get such professional gear?" "Shut up," he said. "I bought a box of random crap from a kid at the Sunday market. He had all kinds of cool stuff." He then proceeded to pull out a Star Wars bottle opener, 2 banana-shaped pens, and a weird penguin doll with a toy gun glued to his fin. Well, I knew Lucas liked to spend his money on stupid toys, but I guess it was kind of cute. Anyway, he took out the binoculars and I said, "I'm pretty sure the toy isn't going to cut it, Lucas." But he said, "Nope, it works pretty great. Here, take a look from here." I went to sit next to him on the bed, and he handed me the binoculars. For a toy, they were pretty damn impressive. I leaned forward to get a glimpse of the TV, and holy shit. I stood up on the bed and leaned forward on the window with the binoculars glued to my eyes. "Lucas, that's fucking insane," I said. "What? What did you see?" he asked, concerned. "The puppet man," I said, voice shaking. "He's just watching static. It's TV snow. It's nothing. It's just noise. What the fuck?" Lucas grabbed the binoculars from me, and I could tell he was freaked out. "Are you sure? He's laughing his ass off right now." I nodded, feeling chills. "It's just static. Look." Lucas looked through the binoculars. "Clara, that's just bizarre. What's he doing now?" I turned to Lucas as the puppet man stood up, and I gasped. "He just stopped laughing. He's getting up. This is insane. He watches an hour of static every day." Suddenly, Lucas yelled, "Oh fuck! Clara, close the curtains!" "What? Why?" I asked, confused. Lucas's voice was frantic. "He's staring right at us." I turned to the window and froze. There he was, the puppet man, full length, standing just inches from the glass, staring directly into my apartment. I jumped off the bed and yanked the curtains closed. Lucas looked at me seriously. "You should stop snooping, seriously." I nodded, a shiver crawling down my spine. I agreed, not just because it was rude, but because that man scared me. There was something so unnatural about him. That same night, I was feeling uneasy, so Lucas stayed over. He even gave me his armed penguin doll and one of the banana pens, which honestly helped a little. He dozed off pretty fast. I guess dancing his ass off at some show wore him out. As for me, I had a pretty hard time falling asleep. Just the thought of the puppet man standing at my window, his full length showing, staring directly at me, it was just unnerving. I hate thinking about it, even remembering it now. But I wish that was all. Finally, when I started to doze off, I heard 2 taps on my window. 2 taps. Then 1. Then 2 again. A pause for a minute or 2. Then again. My heart started pounding. I moved the curtains just a bit, thinking maybe some bird had decided to nest on my window ledge. When I peeked through the gap in the curtains, I froze. What the actual fuck is that? A hand, deformed, sickeningly twisted, was stretching out from the far side of the puppet man's apartment. I couldn't tell where it started, but I could see the veins bulging, twisting in spirals like they were alive. The skin was a sickly gray, like something rotten with blotchy patches of darker, bruised skin. The veins looked like they were about to burst, pushing against the skin in unnatural, knotted shapes, some bulging out in a pulsating rhythm as though they were barely holding on to what little flesh remained. The fingers, twisted and mangled, were bent in ways that weren't natural, as if they'd been snapped and reformed wrong, like the fingers of a corpse left to rot too long. Each finger was too long, too thin. the knuckles broken in odd angles like a victim of some horrible accident where the bones had shattered and then re-knitted in the most grotesque way possible. The nails were long, yellowed, and caked with something I couldn't quite place. Dried blood or something worse. I didn't want to know. As the hand stretched out farther, I could see more details. Skin hanging loose in places, torn as if the hand had been scraped or pulled across something jagged. It looked like it had been through hell, torn, mangled, and somehow still alive. The worst part was the smell. Even through the glass, I swear I could smell it. The air around it felt thick and rancid, as though the hand itself was leaking something foul. I couldn't breathe right, like the stench was clogging my lungs. The hand got closer, stopping just inches from the glass, and then it knocked. 2 taps. 1 tap. 2 again. After that, I screamed. Lucas jumped up wide-eyed.
Clara, what's wrong?
I ran to him, shaking.
He's outside.
Lucas hesitated but said,
"Wait here."
He walked over and peeked through the curtains.
Sorry, Clara, there's
nothing out there. Any chance you just woke up from a bad nightmare? I stood next to him and looked out the window myself. Nothing.
Yeah, maybe,
I whispered. Lucas was kind enough to make me some tea and stayed the next night just to make sure I was okay. After that, I promised him it was just a little shaken up moment. Probably because I got caught peeping. By the 3rd day he left, and I was alone again. Just studying. No more stalking. No more puppet man. I kept the curtains open during the day. But around 6 p.m., 2 hours before the puppet man show started, I made sure they were shut tight, and all the windows were locked. A month after that, I had a close encounter with him. It was the middle of the night when I heard it. As soon as I did, I knew right away what it was. I woke up in a cold sweat, heart pounding in my chest. 2 taps, 1 tap, then 2 taps again. I didn't want to look behind the curtains, but I knew what it was. I said to myself, "Don't worry, the windows are locked." The knocks came again, this time more intensely. 2 taps, 1 tap, and then 2 more. Faster now, relentless. The horrible sound of my glass window starting to crack echoed through the room. 2 taps, 1 tap, then 2 again. The glass shattered. I jumped out of bed, just catching the glimpse of that awful hand. Its fingers gnarled and twitching, then that voice. My body went weak, cold sweat slicking my skin, making it hard to move, hard to breathe. My legs felt heavy. I couldn't run. I couldn't scream. I threw myself under my desk, hands clutching my mouth to stifle the terror rising in my throat. I shut my eyes tight, squeezing them so hard, trying to make it all go away, but I couldn't escape. Then I heard it again, the horrible mechanical sound of his arms stretching, bending, cracking, impossibly long. The fingers slid over the floor, reaching toward me. My heart raced as they brushed through my hair, playing with it, pulling at the strands with a kind of sick glee. I just sobbed, my body shaking, my nose dripping. When I opened my eyes,
I saw him. His face, a twisted, deformed version of the puppet man I thought I knew, was next to mine. His neck was grotesquely bent backward, twisted in a spiraling, unnatural arc. His eyes, they glinted with something unholy. I shut my eyes again, hoping to escape, praying that it would all stop. But it didn't. I felt it. His hand grabbed my arm, jerking it toward him. I couldn't pull away. My body was weak. He shoved my finger into his mouth, his lips stretching over the digit like a hungry, ravenous thing. His mouth was cold and slick, filled with a sticky, foul-tasting saliva. The sensation was disgusting, suffocating, like I was being violated. And I couldn't do anything to stop. The fingers of his other hand dug into my wrist, almost breaking the bones, forcing my hand deeper into his mouth. His tongue flicked over the tip of my finger with a wet, slurping sound, and I gagged, choking on the horror of it all. He giggled, low and guttural, and the sound twisted in my stomach like I might vomit. I started crying harder. Tears streaming down my face, my breath was coming in ragged, terrified gasps, but I could barely speak. I was so weak, so terrified, but I had to beg. I couldn't do anything else. Please, I am so sorry. Please leave me alone. Please, I am so scared. My voice trembled, barely a whisper, but it felt like the only thing I could do. Beg for mercy. The air around me grew thick, heavy with the stench of decay. His grip tightened on my hand, the pressure unbearable, like the bones in my wrist were about to shatter. Then, suddenly, he stopped. I could feel the absence of him, the silence pressing in. I dared not open my eyes, too terrified of what I might see. Then, his voice, a screeching, twisted sound, tore through the stillness.
Please keep watching.
His hand tightened around mine, and before I could even scream, he bit down on my finger. The pain was unlike anything I'd ever felt, like a bolt of white, hot agony coursing through my body. He didn't stop. He ripped through the flesh and bones, teeth grinding, snapping. The sound was sickening. I screamed, my heart shattered with the pain. Blood poured from my hand, splattering across the floor as I tried to pull away, but he wouldn't let go. When I opened my eyes, I was alone. The blood from my missing finger smeared across the floor. I was shaking, crying, bleeding, just a broken mess lying there in my apartment. The static on the old CRT TV was the only sound in the room. Its snow-filled screen mocking me, reminding me of what had just happened. It's been 10 years since that night. I left Berlin the day after. I never completed my studies, but I manage a small used clothing store with my mom now. It was a bit hard to come up with an excuse for how I lost my finger, but I came up with some story. And for a while, I was at peace. Until today, in the middle of the night, I woke up to it again. 2 taps. 1 tap. 2 again.
Second up, we have a story from author Javier Rivero. This is My Brother's Sleep Journal Explains His Disappearance. I wish I had never read it. February 18th. I never thought I'd be the type of person to document things like this. But here I am, at 4:37 a.m., writing about what I've been smelling. Sleep log? Diary? I'm not sure what to call this. Diary feels wrong, too personal, too positive. These occurrences, they stopped feeling positive a while ago. It started 2 months ago, middle of the night. I woke up to a perfume, a woman's perfume. At first, it was almost comforting. I imagined someone walking home late, their scent drifting up through the winter air. Then I remembered. I live on the 5th floor. The scent came back 2 weeks later, stronger, like whoever wore it had stopped right outside my window. Even half asleep, I knew it was the exact same perfume. I tried placing it. My ex's? No, she never wore perfume. I even bought her some once, but it wasn't her thing. I spent a good amount on it. Mom's? Wrong again. This scent is completely unfamiliar, yet somehow intimate. This morning it came back. 3rd time. I don't know why I'm writing this. Maybe to prove to myself that it's real, that I'm not. The scent's back, right now, as I'm writing this. My window is closed. March 1st. The perfume again. Same scent, but stronger, much stronger. It felt like someone was standing outside my window, a window that, I should remind you, faces nothing but a 50-foot drop to the pavement. I can't explain it. Hell, I even debated writing this down. Maybe if I ignore it, it'll stop. Does acknowledging something give it power? Because ever since I started this log, it feels closer. March 3rd. I passed through the duty-free perfume section at the airport today. I thought maybe I could match the scent to something real, something tangible, something that would prove I wasn't losing my mind. I lied my way into the women's section and started smelling every bottle I could. I must have looked like a creep. The saleswoman kept eyeing me suspiciously. Nothing matched. Not even close. Maybe their selection was just bad? Or maybe what I'm smelling isn't meant to be found in stores. March 21st. This night, I did something I haven't done before. When the scent came, I opened my eyes. It was so intense that waking up felt like the only option. The clock read 3:03 a.m. Nobody would be awake at that time on a Tuesday, nobody but me. The scent disappeared the second I moved. I looked around the room, but there was nothing. Just the dark corners of my apartment, staring back at me. I can't shake the feeling that something was there. I must admit, I'm scared. May 3rd. I thought the unsettling haunting of a lady's perfume would be enough to keep me somewhat alert and half sleeping for the past days. The time that had passed without any strange visitor started to feel like a small victory. I was wrong. For the first time, the smell was different, and not just any kind of different. It was putrid. The scent was plainly obnoxious, like decomposition and sulfur had a child. It wasn't strong enough to wake me from my sleep, but I remember vividly how it coated my throat, made me gag even in my dreams. A broken pipe. No, more like roadkill left to rot in the summer heat. Hell, I don't even have much of a reference for horrid smells. I just remember the stench around me for those few seconds and how it felt intentional. That's all I recall from last night. I'm worried my analysis of the perfume might be deviated from this new smell. Surely an explanation of people taking out the trash makes more sense than a woman floating outside my 5th floor apartment. Right? May 10th. The stench returned, this time stronger than before. It had been 7 days, and my sleep routine was starting to crumble. Each night, my anxiety grew worse as bedtime approached, like I was bracing for something to happen. It probably doesn't help that part of my routine has been reading 30 minutes of horror before trying to fall asleep. I keep telling myself, I should switch to sci-fi. It's lighter, more imaginative. But I haven't found anything good since reading Andy Weir. Maybe I'll dive into Goodreads tomorrow and see if anything catches my eye. I noticed I'm shying away from the real purpose of this log, to understand what is happening. That's the purpose, right? The scent was horrible. I don't want to start drawing any conclusions just yet. May 11th. I lied. I want to start drawing conclusions. At first, I was skeptical about looking for answers on Reddit, and as I imagined, nothing similar was reported, or at least not from what I found after searching for countless hours. The closest thing I stumbled upon was a post from someone who woke up to the smell of smoke and managed to stop a kitchen fire just in time. Quite a different thing. I couldn't even tell if the Redditor was a man or a woman. Their username was impossible to figure out. Then I asked V. Her response didn't help much. 7:38 p.m. May 11th, 2024. VV. Interesting. I've heard of the occurrence myself, especially the sweet perfume turning putrid. 7:41 p.m. May 11th, 2024. VV. I can't find it right off the bat, but it reminds me of tales people have told about demons and how they try to trick humans by way of their senses. Usually I've heard about it mostly occurring with demons trying to impersonate children. Demons impersonating children. I wish V hadn't told me that part. May 12th. Demons impersonating children. I catch myself whispering it over and over. I couldn't sleep much today. No scent, though. Sometimes I think the waiting is worse than the visits. May 21st. My daily activities are starting to suffer because of how little I've been sleeping. It's like my brain can't focus on anything else. I keep trying to picture the visitor, whoever or whatever it might be, as I wait for the stench to come back. Neither has shown up, but I can't stop thinking about it. I've started noticing strange things, too. Shadows moving where they shouldn't. Objects seeming to shift like something's passing by. Probably just tricks of the light. Or maybe just dreams. Do you ever get so tired that you start to question which parts of your life are real? May 30th. The sleep deprivation is getting worse. It's strange to think a simple scent could haunt me to the point of losing sleep, but here I am. My head throbs most of the day, and I can barely focus. The reports my manager asked for last week are still sitting untouched, like they're mocking me. I try to comfort myself by thinking it hasn't happened again for almost a month. But who am I kidding? I've been counting the days. 20, to be exact. Sometimes I catch myself hoping it comes back, just to prove I'm not crazy. June 17th. I've cleared out everything from my room. No furniture, no clutter, no shadows left for it to twist into something else. It's quieter now. Emptier, almost peaceful. Not that it matters. It'll come anyway. June 20th. Tap, tap, tap. It was the middle of the night, somewhere between midnight and 3 a.m. I'm certain, after so many sleepless nights, I've learned to tell the difference. A faint sound echoed from the window. It wasn't loud, but it cut through the stillness and jolted me awake from my half-dead state. I didn't turn to look. I didn't even think about it. My body refused to move, frozen in place. I just lay there, listening. No, this wasn't a dream. It never was. June 21st. I don't know if I should even continue this log. The night occurrences have become terrifying, to say the least. I can't remember why I even started this diary. Oh, right. A scent. The tapping on my window and the entities walking around my bed have made me forget completely the reason I started writing this in the first place. Sometimes I wonder if it knows I'm awake. Did I mention the entities? I don't remember. There's a lot I don't remember anymore. June 28th. The stench woke me first. It was overwhelming, suffocating, like the room itself was rotting from the inside out. I couldn't open my eyes. I didn't dare, but I knew it was there. The air around me felt wrong, heavy, and alive, just like it felt every time I wrote about it in these pages, each entry making it stronger and more present. God, how did I not see it before? Every word I put down was like a brushstroke, painting it into existence. I didn't move. My eyes still closed, my heart pounding so hard that I could feel it in my throat, each beat echoing in the silence. My body felt like it was pinned to the bed, not by weight, but by sheer terror. Then it came. The sound. A crack. Low, deliberate, like a joint popping after being held still for far too long. Another crack. Closer this time, more real than ever. Its breath was hot and damp, brushing against my face in uneven bursts. Every instinct screamed for me to move, to scream, to do something, but I couldn't. This was my doing. Every detail I documented, every sensation I described, I'd been summoning it all along. Then, the touch.
A finger, hairy and damp, dragged slowly down my cheek. My skin prickled as if it were recoiling from the contact, but I couldn't flinch. I still didn't open my eyes. Not until I felt it lean closer, its breath now at my ear, and that's when I heard it. Not a voice, but a thought. Deep and invasive, as if it had been planted directly into my brain. It begins now. The words didn't fade. They lingered, echoing in the spaces between my thoughts, growing louder and louder until I thought I might scream. But I didn't. I couldn't. July 6th. The pen feels wrong in my hand today. Heavy. Each stroke. Deliberate. Guided. Like something else is moving across the page. Through me. I'm already running out of space in this stupid notebook. It's strange, writing all of this down. Sometimes I wonder who these words are really for. I've been thinking about you. Yes, you, the one reading this. Strange, isn't it? These logs were never meant to be just for me. They were always meant for someone else. For you. I don't remember writing that. We remember reading it.
Edit. Found this in my brother's apartment while cleaning it out after he went missing. His window was open. The walls were covered in strange symbols, hundreds of them, drawn with the same deliberate, guided strokes as his journal entries. Edit 2. I've started smelling perfume in my apartment, too. I live on the 7th floor. Final update. I should have burned this journal when I had the chance. The pen feels strange in my hand now. Heavy. Each stroke deliberate. Guided. And I'm running out of paper, too. Thanks for listening. Thank you so much to both my authors this week, Ofir and Javier. Do you see what I was saying? I don't know. They both entities tap on the window. There's a smell involved at one point. I know they're different, but there was something about it. In fact, I think I'm going to name this episode Tap, Tap, Tap because it just feels fitting, you know? So thank you again for those. I hope you enjoyed your episodes this week, these stories this week. I'm pretty tired. It's a little late. If you'd like to follow the show on social media, you can follow it at Scare You to Sleep on all the socials. I'm not going to list them all. You can follow me personally at Shelby B. Novak on all the socials. I will say I'm mostly active on Instagram these days, a little bit on Twitter. Oh, Clara had something to say. I don't know if the mic picked that up. She says she sends her regards. And if you'd like ad-free episodes of this show, you can find them on Patreon, patreon.com/scareyoutosleep. There are bonus episodes there. I'm going to be doing continuing Dorian Gray there. I stretched my voice a little bit recording Ofir's story because I did all those gross monster noises with my own throat, and it's not feeling great. It's been a while since I've done some pretty intense monster noises, and there you go. So, just getting back at it. It's fine.
What else? Oh, if you'd like your story, fictional or non-fictional, presented on the show, you can send it to scareyoutosleep@gmail.com. No guarantees it will be featured on the show. I do get a lot of submissions, which is a blessing, but it does take that. I only say that because it takes me a little while to get through them, and my apologies if it takes me a while. But yeah, please make sure you note in the subject line if it is going to be fiction or nonfiction. Thank you very much. I think that's all the important stuff. If I missed anything, then oops. Guess you'll have to listen to a different episode and see what I usually say at the end of the episodes. Let's see. Oh, Baking Corner. We can move on to Baking Corner. So this is the part of the show where I talk about what I baked this week, ramble a little bit about my week. If that's not your jam, then that is cool, and you can go. I release you from the episode. Good night. This week I baked some banana bread with walnuts and chocolate chips. Don't write to me to tell me you hate walnuts. I don't care. It was my banana bread. Sometimes when I mention I put walnuts in things, someone's like, hey, by the way, I hate walnuts. And I'm like, oh, well, I didn't make them for you. So, anyway, if you make your own banana bread, just don't put fucking walnuts in it. It's that easy. It's that easy. I love banana bread. I always put extra. I put flaxseed in it, and sometimes I'll add oats. I'm just I love to add fiber wherever I can. I know everybody's about protein these days. I like adding fiber wherever we can. We don't get enough fiber in our diets. That's for not everybody, but overall, I think. I'm not going to talk about wellness to you. That's dumb. I'm not qualified for that. I'm not qualified to tell you that you need fiber in your. Fiber is important, but who am I to tell you? I don't know why we're arguing. Why are we arguing? Why am I yelling at you about walnuts and fiber? What's going on? I didn't know we were in a fight. I'm sorry. That probably means it's late and I'm tired and I should go, since I'm picking fights with you. I hate it when we fight. Let's make up, okay? Okay, we're made up. We're not fighting anymore. What else do I usually tell you about? Sometimes I tell you about my week. Next week I'm going hiking. And that's fun. I'll tell you all about that. Maybe in a ramble. This week I had a little Severance watch party. I posted that on Instagram. Just a couple of my friends. And we watched Severance because I'm obsessed with Severance right now. Been watching the new season of Yellow Jackets. Not enjoying it. But I'm sticking in there. Because, I've been here this long. Waited this long between seasons. Might as well see how it shakes out. Could be wrong by the end of the season. Maybe I'm like, wow, they really turned it around in my eyes. This is all personal opinions. We're not fighting anymore. So remember, we're not fighting anymore. This is all just my personal opinions. It's fine. And, anyway, I'm going to go. I feel like I'm rambling to a really bad extent. I have nothing to say. How boring am I? I guess, part of it is that I have the Bloody Disgusting podcast now and I just kind of talk there. I'm not going to stop the rambles, but I did 2 episodes this week. I did the bonus episode and the other episode. Go check that out, by the way. Leave us comments. Leave us comments on Spotify. Email us. Interact with us on social media. Do all the stuff. Rate and review. I haven't said that in a long time. Rate and review the Bloody Disgusting podcast. Rate and review this podcast. I haven't asked you to do that. Told you. Ooh, I'm not your dad. Asked you nicely to do that. I haven't done that in a while. So rate and review this podcast. Rate and review Bloody Disgusting podcast. Xena's amazing. Go follow Xena on social media, by the way. She's usually Real Queen of Horror on a lot of stuff, or Lovely Xena, if you don't find her under Real Queen of Horror. She has these great videos. She did one recently about black final girls. It was so good. I learned about a couple of new movies that I hadn't heard of, and she's fantastic. Anyway, just singing the praises, my beautiful friend Xena. So I'm gonna go. All right. I hope you have a lovely evening, a lovely weekend. Almost done. I know. I think I've said this 2 weeks in a row. Almost done with the Guided Nightmare Part 2 of Funeral Home. funeral parlor. I decided to add a bunch of lore. I'm being very particular with it. It's not even that I haven't been working on it. I've been working on it. I have all these notes about, and then I've changed the notes, and it's been, now I'm worried that it's going to be everyone's like least favorite or something, because it's turning into my favorite. And isn't that how the cookie crumbles sometimes? Okay, I love you. Go get some sleep. Go drink your water. Drink your water, for the love of fucking Christ, for the love of whatever entity was in this episode. If you don't drink your water, you're going to get 3 taps on your window from this thing. Sorry to the authors that I've decided it's the same entity. It's just I've created a headcanon. I don't know. Maybe get together. Maybe contact each other. Work on, I don't know. I'm going to go. Now I'm networking. That's everyone's favorite, most entertaining thing is networking. Okay, good night. Go get some sleep. Sweet dreams.